Take two. Eric Arnold here in the Sports Barn on Wednesday, what we think might be June 17th. We keep track of the dates by videos. I've missed a couple days making videos, so therefore I have no idea what date it is. But I think it's the 17th. So I think we're supposed to be talking about the Boston Red Sox, but we're not. So if you tuned in saying, what are the Boston Red Sox going to do this year? They're not going to do anything. No one is. We'll get to that in a minute. So mostly what the topic is today is just a rant on baseball. That was one of the beautiful things about baseball. Baseball's been around for over 100 years in some organized, recognizable format. So there's a lot to rant about. So, this video could last a while, subscriber X. But what else you got to do? So, I made some notes to try to organize my badly, loosely formed thoughts into some kind of coherent rant. I did watch the latest ESPN documentary. What's it called? Long Gone Summer. The McGuire-Sosa chase in 1998. Very disappointing. It kind of was what it was in that they told the story, as it happened. In other words, if you're a youngster and weren't alive or don't remember 1998, then maybe you got to experience a little bit of it. I would argue this. It wasn't that exciting if you didn't live in Chicago or St. Louis. I asked brother Mark about it. He said, I didn't watch that. I didn't care. I could care less. I could care less back then. It's like, that's true. There were areas of the country because of the 94 strike where they really didn't care if Mark McGuire hit yet another home run. Plus, I think even then there were some fans that were picking up on the fact that, hey, this all is kind of phony. This guy's pumped up like a cartoon Popeye. I mean, even then, it wasn't many, and certainly the media didn't report it, but even then, there was a slight whiff of what's going on. But, they told the story through the eyes of a 7-year-old. Wow, isn't it fantastic? This is great. Baseball, such fun. And it was fun. For the most part, it was fun. And it was all a lie. It was all a lie. And the documentary touches on that almost not at all. They allow Mark McGuire to spout his bullshit about, I used, but, everybody was doing it. And there was no testing. He almost comes right up to the line of saying there were no rules. I was allowed to do it. No, you weren't. No, you weren't allowed to do it. That shit you were using was banned. They just had no test to look for it. So, hey, no one's looking. I can do whatever I want. Sosa's never admitted that he juiced, even though I think it's pretty obvious to everybody. Here's a middling, not very good baseball player. Boom! All of a sudden he explodes into Superman. And while never having, tested, and then he's on that list, the anonymous list that was leaked to the New York Times. If you forget the history there, in 2003, while the owners were suddenly realizing, holy shit, we got to do something. The Congress is on us now. We got to look like we're doing something to clean this up. And the Players Association, of course, being them, just crossing their arms saying, nope, 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 we won't, nope, nope. They finally agreed. It's like, well, look, what if we do an anonymous survey where we test everybody and keep the results anonymous to find out what percentage is juicing? So they did that, and of course, a good 20% of the league's juicing. So this list of like 103 players leaks out, of course, about 5-6 years later to the New York Times. And, you know, every star player in the league practically in 2003 is on the list, including Sammy Sosa, of course. You know, Sosa denies it to this day. The one thing Sosa did say that was interesting, and I thought, well, he's right about that. He was saying that list, I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys on that list that are in the Hall of Fame. Why are you singling me out? Why am I the bad guy? What about those guys? I'm like, you're right. Pedro Martinez was on that list. Aaron Boone, current manager of the Yankees, is on that list. You know, there are a few other obvious ones like Bonds and Clemens, but there have been some guys that have escaped punishment. David Ortiz, of course, that were on that list. Sosa's been punished. Pedro, you know, not punished. Aaron Boone's managing the goddamn Yankees. So, yeah, Sosa had a point with that. Of course, he didn't admit that, you know, he juiced. No, that was all just nonsense, ridiculous. You know, it doesn't matter. He, you know. So, yeah, why am I angry about those 2 assholes? What they did was unforgivable. And they shouldn't be forgiven, and they shouldn't be lauded over in some documentary about what heroes they are. Those guys, one of the greatest things about baseball is its records, or it used to be its records. Baseball is the sport that you can go all the way back, and there's been an organized version of baseball being played since the turn of the century, since before World War I, that you can take the game that was played in 1909, the rules of it between Ty Cobb and Honus Wagner, the great 1909 World Series between the Pirates and the Tigers. And the rules are basically the same as it was then, as it is now. And you can compare players, you can compare stats, you can compare how the game was played. These guys did away with a lot of that. There was always going to be a home run chase. Somebody at some point was going to push the Ruth/Maris record. And it turns out it's these guys, and they're cheating. And they're cheating. And then Bonds goes over the top on them and breaks it even further. And all of them are cheating. And now that record's destroyed. When we were growing up in the 70s and 80s, and anybody had, like, say, 30, 35 home runs at the All-Star break, that was a lot of talk about that. People were interested in that. Wow, do you think fill in the blank has a chance to catch Ruth? Gee, wow, there was always a lot of talk. Anytime somebody pushed deep into the summer with a bunch of home runs, all dead after the year 2000 or whatever, 1, 2, 3, whenever Bonds smashed it to smithereens. Because now you got half the people like me that say, those records don't count. That's as phony as a $3 bill. And then you got other sports writers who are like, well, they did do it, and everybody was doing it then, so it is legitimate. It's like, it's not legitimate. I mean, so the record really is just, no one cares anymore. That's the real thing. No one cares. Doesn't matter if it's legitimate or not. It's just no one gives a shit. So there you have it. It's like, thanks, McGuire. Thanks, Sosa. Cocksuckers. They just, you know, I guess I shouldn't blame them. They were just talented enough to be cheating and talented enough to break the records. So... you know, I think back into 2006, Ryan Howard, who for the most part I think was probably clean. You know, if you told me if somebody posted in the comments section that you were his pharmacist and you sent him steroids for 15 years and had documented proof of that, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised. But for the most part, I think he's been clean. In 2006, he had 56 home runs, I think, on the 8th of September. And that's like game 141. There should have been wall-to-wall coverage of him having a chance, a good chance, to break the Ruth/Maris record. Instead, nothing. You know, no one talked about it. Just wasn't Barry Bonds just 4 or 5 years earlier had hit 73. I mean, it was just almost like, well, yeah, he's doing it. Look at him go. That's a nice little season for the young kid. Good. But nobody really cared, and they should have. They should have. So I have no use for McGuire and Sosa. I thought, the softball questions and interviews were a disservice to the game. I mean, I guess you have to promise to give softball questions if you even want guys like that to appear on your show. I think back to an old story I read or was told in the mid-'60s. The Philadelphia Phillies, great story of Philadelphia lore. 1964, the Phillies had a 6-game lead in the National League with 12 to go, and somehow did not end up in the World Series. They blew it. The great collapse of '64. So next spring training in '65, manager Gene Mauch, he's contacted by Howard Cosell. Howard Cosell wants to interview him. So Gene Mauch says, okay, I'll do the interview, but you can't ask me about 1964. Well, why the hell do you think he's interviewing you? I mean, do you think anybody gives a shit about the second place manager? The story is you guys blew a 6-game lead with 12 to go. That's why he's doing the interview. So Howard, of course, says, okay, no problem. I want to ask you about the '64 season. So the interview starts, and the first question Howard Cosell asks is, in 1964, you had a 6-game lead with 12 to go and did not win. How does that feel? And then Gene Mauch goes, fuck you, Howard, and walks off. So Howard wasn't going to let that go. He was going to lie to him and then ask him the question. Good for you, Howard. If you can't take the heat, you lost. Own it. You blew a 6-game lead with 12 to go. Answer the questions. Own it. But he wouldn't. But at least Howard had the balls to ask him. So, I don't know what else we got here. Let's wait. What's the current state of... Oh, I see. So that was that McGuire-Sosa thing was leading me up to where we are with baseball. It occurred to me that the worst times in baseball history have been, I think the owners, for the most part, always maintain a pretty static level of shittiness, of scumminess, of greediness. And the worst times in baseball history is when the players' greediness matches the owners. Then you got trouble. You go back into 1919 when the owners would pay the players horribly back then. Nothing near what they were worth. They did it because they could. The White Sox in 1919, a very good team, got fed up with it and just said, you know what? We're going to throw the series because we're going to get paid to do it. And why not? These guys are promising, they never did, they're promising to pay us more than what we make from the White Sox all year long. So, that's how that ended up. That was a complete disaster for baseball. Your best team cheating, throwing the games, what a disaster. But why? Well, the players got greedy too. It's like, we want our money, so we're going to cheat. And they cheated. And, the owners, they brought it all on themselves by being assholes. But, who got screwed? The fans. Through the '94 strike, the whole World Series canceled. Baseball killed in Montreal. Why? Because the players just wouldn't compromise. They just said, no, you've been screwing us over, and we're not taking it anymore. Hooray! Good for you, players. You proved your point. No baseball in Montreal. World Series canceled. I don't know. And then you got the steroids. The players, well, I'm going to get mine. I don't care if some other player is testing clean and isn't using. That's his stupid decision. Screw him. That's on him. He could use if he wanted to. I'm doing it. So, we had a whole generation of guys smashing records beyond all comprehension. That, I don't know we ever got over the steroid era. Good for you guys. Way to go, players. And now here we are, got the owners who apparently, from what I'm reading in the baseball press, they are losing the press war and the players are winning it because the owners are so over the top greedy and scummy. And I agree. The owners are complete shit. Complete shit. These guys, these franchises are worth billions. Billions. I mean, I don't know the cheapest franchise in all of Major League Baseball is worth less than $1 billion. The Royals, I mean, they just sold for $1 billion. And that has to be one of the lower valued franchises of all of them. And it's worth $1 billion. I mean, the top line franchises, good Lord, I don't even know what the New York Yankees would be worth. $5 billion? That's a guess. And these guys cannot somehow figure out how to come up with an extra, between the whole MLB, I don't know what they'd have to come up with to play this year. What, $1 billion? Amongst 30 teams that are probably worth $50 billion, and they can't come up with an extra $1 billion to spread around to make sure everybody gets paid, to make sure the games go off. Obviously the answer is, of course they could do it. They could do it in a second if they wanted to. They simply don't want to. So the owners, like I said, living up to their historical norm of always being shit, complete shit, and here we are. So the players, of course, are winning the public relation battle because everybody recognizes the owners are shit. So the players, every snarky tweet they send out calling the owners out for their scummy behavior, I mean, let's hear it. I mean, the players have definitely proved their point. They are right. The owners are screwing everybody. The players have done it, and they have won this round of negotiations. So, I don't know when the next game is. I'm just having so much fun watching the players, send out snarky tweets. I don't know if they're ever actually going to play baseball. Okay, the real answer is they're not going to play baseball. The players are too busy owning the owners. Hey, wow, yeah, another good snarky tweet. Yeah, really owned them that time. They are shit. Of course they're shit. God, it's like, you're not doing anything other than pointing out the obvious. Complete shit. Of course the owners are. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? You're not willing to compromise at all. You have won on principle. You should be paid. They're not going to pay you. So, baseball is probably dead. And, like I said, you have one side that can't or won't compromise, and that's the owners, because, they're scum. The scorpion and the frog. You never heard that one? Jeez, all right, the scorpion and the frog. Frog and the scorpion are standing on the side of the lake, and they need to get to the other side, and the frog goes, well, I can swim across. You wanna ride? And the scorpion goes, oh, okay. If you're nice enough to take me, I'll go. So the scorpion riding on the back of the frog, they go swimming across the lake, and the scorpion stings the frog. And the frog goes, what'd you do that for? Now we're both gonna die. As he, lapses into paralysis and sinks with the scorpion going down too with him. And the scorpion goes, well, it's just my nature. Owners are going to own. They're going to scumbag. They can't help themselves. It's just their nature. So it's up to the players to keep the game going. But, you know, they're too busy sending out snarky tweets. You know, again, some good stuff they've been doing. They've definitely owned the owners. And, you know, that's it then. There's just no baseball. That was how it ended. There'll be no baseball this year, and if there is any, nobody's going to give a shit. It's going to be a short, stupid, extended spring training, who the hell cares season. I've been like plotting my life after baseball. I mean, I'm kind of thinking, this is kind of it. I guess it's over, you know. The sport was dying anyway, and the way the players are behaving kind of leads me to believe, you know, these are almost guys that I don't think give a shit about the game 20 years from now anyway. You know, look at the kids. Nobody plays baseball anymore. I can think of a number of kids, of friends of mine, they don't play baseball. My grandson doesn't play baseball. I have to break his arm behind his back to get him to play. You know, he'd much rather play video games. His father doesn't play baseball. So, you know, it's just, boy, it's dying. It just is, you know. So, I've been looking around. I actually was looking at soccer. I guess the Europeans call it football. It's definitely a much more popular game worldwide. Problem is, I just know nothing about it. So I don't know what to do. There's actually a game today. Let's see if I can get this right. Apparently it's called the Coppa Italia. Did I get that right, Italian people? I guess it's the Italian version of the FA Cup, where the top leagues in Italy, and I believe if I got this correct, and again, I don't know the first thing about soccer, I think that all the worst team in the Italian version of the NFL is better than the best team in the American Soccer League, the MLS. I don't know if that's a completely fair statement, but that's kind of what I've been led to believe by some people. So, you know, you're getting top, in America we have bad soccer. In Europe they have good soccer. So both these teams, very good. These are two of the better teams in Italy. I think Juventus has, is it Ronaldo? Cristiano Ronaldo? I guess he's like one of the superstars of soccer worldwide. I guess these guys are from northern Italy. These guys are from Naples. By watching The Sopranos, I know that there's a lot of north-south hatred in Italy, in that Naples is down the boot a ways towards the tip of the boot, and they're more of a rural, poorer area of the country, and is looked down upon by the northern, richer part of the country, so they feel resentment towards the northern part. Again, I get my Italian history through The Sopranos. So this is an actual sporting event, unlike baseball, unlike the umpteenth replay of Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. This will take place at 3 o'clock today. This is a real sporting event for a real trophy, the Coppa Italia, the Italian Cup, and we actually can bet on it, believe it or not. This is, these soccer odds are funky. This is the last I saw. They have a different odds. I guess what they do is they have 3 odds because I don't want to bash soccer because I'm going to have to, it seems like that's what we're going to replace baseball with. So because they score so infrequently, ties are pretty frequent events. So you got three odds. You got one Team A's chance to win, Team B's chance of winning, and then the chance of the tie. I mean, I don't know what you do when you're betting on a tie. I mean, that just feels so, it's like I'm rooting for both teams. This is terrible. I don't, how can you do that? But in this case, they also, because this is a game where someone actually has to win, they can't just allow a tie. I never, again, don't want to bash soccer. We love soccer, or we're going to have to love soccer. We're forced to love it because baseball's fucked us. But someone's actually going to have to win this. There is no other game. This is the final. This is the championship game. So this will go to shootout, and then if, they go through their ridiculous shootout drill, and then whoever wins the best on the penalty kicks, they're your champion. So Juventus is the favorite. I think that translates to around maybe a 60 to 62% chance of them winning. They have a much better record than these guys. They have a better record this year. They have a better historical record. Apparently these guys have won the Italian Cup more than anyone else. I tried to translate the records of the teams. What records you're saying? Well, both these teams play in the Italian NFL. I think they call it Series A. So in the Italian NFL, I took their records and compared them against each other. Like Juventus, for example, I think they've won 20 times and have lost 3. That's pretty damn good. These guys are like 11-9. So, I tried to translate that to our American football. In other words, the NFL. When that type of team goes up against that type of team, how often does this really good team win? And there's no point spread here now. Remember, it doesn't matter if they win 5-0 or they win in penalty kicks. All they got to do is win. So, also I used college football, trying to figure that out. It's like, well, when a really super team plays a kind of sort of good team, how often does the really super team win? I'm thinking the really super team almost always wins. Occasionally they don't cover the spread, but they almost always win. So I'm going to take Juventus. I think there's definitely a better than 60, 62. I would say it's probably about a 70% chance that Juventus wins. That would translate to odds of like 210 or something to come up with the proper odds. So I think there's value there. So, that's what we're going to do there. I think this is largely a bet just to say, go fuck yourself, baseball. Players Union, go fuck yourself. Owners, go fuck yourself. Players Union, go fuck yourself. Owners, go fuck yourself. How's that? I saved the loudest go fuck yourself for the owners. One thing I'd like to see the Players Union do with all their snarky tweets, I'd like to see them out the hardline owners. Apparently there's at least 8 hardline owners that are wanting to cancel everything, that are, probably the holdup to any kind of sensible deal or something. Well, you know who they are, Trevor Bauer. Out them. I want to know who it is. Is it the owner of the Cleveland Indians? Is it the owner of the Cincinnati Reds? Is it the Pittsburgh Pirates? Well, we all know it's probably the Pittsburgh Pirates because that guy's a skinflint that everybody knows it. But I want to hear it. Do it. Out these guys. Come on, you're winning a snarky tweet war. I want to know who the scumbag owners are. So, baseball's just about finished. We're probably not going to complete our preview series because why the hell would we? I mean, at a certain point, Asperger's and common sense just wins. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do going forward. If we'll begin, maybe next year we'll handicap the NBA. rather than baseball, or we will attempt to learn more about soccer. Maybe soccer's easy to bet. I don't think